Hey, I'm gonna meet you in Maui and we can eat a bunch of pineapple and we'll never get kicked out of keto. Okay, it's a slight exaggeration, but it's still kind of true. You see, part of the perks of what I do is I get to experiment on myself all the time. I wear a continuous glucose monitor and I experiment different foods and different combinations, but then I reinforce it with research and science. And I had heard about something a few months ago and I wanted to experiment it, and that was if I added allulose to the top of my fruit, would it keep me in ketosis? Because I knew some interesting stuff about allulose. So we're gonna dive into the details of that. Do make sure you hit the red subscribe button and hit that bell icon. If you like experimenting on yourself and trying new things and getting in the best possible shape, then this is definitely gonna be the channel for you. And then after this video, I put a link down below for BlueBlox. BlueBlox is a blue light blocking glasses company, but they don't just stop at blocking the blue light from your computer screens. They know how to block specific wavelengths of blue light. So they have the lenses that you use when you look at your computer, plus they have ones that you can wear when you're outside to block some of the blue light. Then they have ones that you wear at night that block 100% of the blue light to allow you to get into that melatonin producing state better. It truly is cutting edge stuff, and they're nothing like the other BlueBlox companies that are out there. They've done it right. So there's a link down below with a special discount for those of you that want to check them out after this video. Look, we're no stranger to fructose and how it can be really dangerous for our waistline, right? Fructose is a unique kind of sugar that we can only absorb so much of. And we only utilize 40, 50 grams of it stored in our liver before it starts to spill over and contribute to what's called de novo lipogenesis, the creation of new fat. So it's something that we really pay close attention to. And on a lower carb diet, we're all good with having a little bit of berries, right? We're okay with having like a quarter to a half cup of berries, blueberries, stuff like that. But what if we could have more fruit and get away with it without it kicking us out of keto? Well, it turns out that allulose added on top of your fruit does this, and I experimented with myself. In fact, when I added allulose on top of my fruit, like I added like 2 tablespoons of granulated allulose on top of fruit, I found that my blood glucose went down and my ketones stayed just about the same. So what's the mechanism of action? What's going on here? Check it out. Allulose is molecularly similar to fructose. So that means that it competes for the same transporter. Allulose doesn't have a carb content, really. Allulose is a calorie-free sweetener, or has a couple calories, but point is, it competes with fructose for the same transporter. So imagine fructose and imagine allulose running to catch the same bus, and allulose just steps on the bus right before the doors close, and glucose, fructose are like, what happened? That's kind of what's going on. But there's a secondary mechanism too. You see, allulose inhibits the enzymes that break down glucose and fructose. So that means that we have a secondary process. So let's assume that glucose or fructose did make it onto that bus. Well, the bus drives to the cell, and then, well, the door doesn't open and it can't get off the bus. There you go. So there's a backup plan. So not only does allulose prevent the glucose and fructose from getting on the bus, but it also ultimately can prevent it, if it does get on the bus, from getting off at the cell. This is all about GLUT5 and GLUT2. Let me indulge you a little bit. The Journal of Pharmacology and Therapeutics had published a study, and they found just that allulose competes with GLUT5 in the intestines. So GLUT5 is going to bring fructose from the intestine into ultimately the bloodstream and the liver, right? Well, allulose competed with it there. But then they found a little bit more. They found that it competed with GLUT2. That's the other transporter that I was talking about that allows it to get off the bus. And this works not only with fructose, but also with glucose. It's just fructose, I think, is more profound because fructose is, I don't know, dare I say, more dangerous to your waistline. So what this study did is it took cultured intestinal cells, okay, so basically mimicked a human intestinal tract in a way, okay, and they added glucose and fructose. And remember, most fruit is a combination of glucose and fructose, different ratios. Some have more fructose, some have more glucose. Point is, allulose kind of satisfies both. But either way, okay, so they had this like imaginary intestinal tract, right? And then, I shouldn't say imaginary, but they created it in a petri dish. And they added glucose and fructose. And then they added allulose. And when they added the allulose, it decreased the permeability of those intestinal cells by 70%. So 70% of the glucose and fructose didn't pass through the intestinal cell because allulose was present. This lines up almost exactly with my numbers. Okay, when I consumed about 25 grams of sugar from fruit, my blood glucose actually went down. I can only speak for myself. I don't know if that's going to work on someone else, but when you retroactively look at the science and you look at these cultured intestinal cells, it makes sense. Plus, you factor in the fact that it inhibits maltase and sucrase, which are the enzymes that ultimately break these sugars down too. It just makes logical sense. So anyhow, it's not to say that you can magically add allulose and everything's going to be corrected, but it's a cool little hack if you want to have a little bit more fruit on keto and not feel like you're going to get kicked out. Anyway, I'll see you tomorrow.